Right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Dummies Guide session being organized by the Theory Club. I'm Ananya Pandey, one of the co-committee members, and I'm going to be hosting this session today. But before we finally start with it, I have to make two very quick announcements. One, the Theory Club is soon going to host an online debate event, so please keep a lookout for that on our Instagram page. And we are also going to be organizing a series of events where students from all around India, they can come and they can present their research, and it's not just limited to Xavierites. So keep a lookout for that too. All right, back to the session today. The session for today, the topic is neuromarketing, and the speakers for today's event are Bivas Nag and Tulika Sharma, both third year BSc Life Science students. Welcome. Now, the thing is that before we finally start, I'm going to take a minute and introduce you to the speakers and why we decided to conduct a session like this on a topic like neuromarketing. So neuromarketing today is being used by major institutions all around the world to conduct their marketing campaigns. So from the moment you walk into that store to buy a particular product, or you're just sitting on your bed watching television and suddenly an advertisement pops up, there's a very high chance that both of these are using the tools provided to them by neuromarketing. So to just gain a better insight into your behavior as a consumer, and also if you're going to step out into the market someday and you will be asked to sell a particular product. So a very basic understanding of neuromarketing can really help you with that too. So our speakers, both Vivas and Tulika, they spent a major part of their summer trying to understand neuromarketing in detail. They were part of a summer program which was conducted by a company called Neuroloc, which is a leading company that is known for using its neuromarketing strategies. They also took an online course that was conducted by the Copenhagen Business School on neuromarketing. Vivas has also been a recipient of many national and international awards, including the National Balshri Award in Creative Science and the K.S. Krishnan Mentorship Award at TIFR. So that's awesome, Vivas. So we are finally starting. My first question to you both is, what exactly is neuromarketing, and can you please explain the interdisciplinary nature of it?
So thank you, Ananya, for such a great introduction. So starting neuromarketing, as the slide already mentioned, from brain to the market, I think neuromarketing, only the term is new. The field that we are in has already been used before, as well as we are using it now as well. So if you see what is neuromarketing, according to me, is the art of using science in the field of marketing, gaining the insight of consumer, their noting their experiences, how they are going through when they see a particular product, and then using that to build a marketing strategy and to push the customer, or rather to nudge the customer to choose better.
So, according to me, what neuromarketing is, consider this triangle. The vertices of this triangle consist of many fields like.
Okay.
Is there an issue with the sharing
Yes.
the presentation?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all right.
Okay, is it visible now?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
So, I'll just repeat what I was saying.
Sure.
So, according to me, what neuromarketing is, consider this triangle. At the vertices of the triangle, there are many fields written, like as neurobiology, psychology, and economics. And at the centroid of this triangle is written consumer neuroscience. So neuromarketing is basically a multidisciplinary field which brings into account various fields of art and science together.
That's quite interesting. How effective do you think neuromarketing is, and what are the factors that are making it effective?
So talking about, yeah, Tulika, you speak. Yeah.
Yeah. So according to me, neuromarketing takes into account consumers' neurological, psychological, and biological aspects. So neurological in the sense that it tries to increase the likelihood of the product which a particular brand is selling, Biological means it tries to link the emotional perspective of consumers towards a particular product and enhancing the consumer's choice in buying that particular product.
So, talking about key point that we follow in a neuromarketing study is aesthetic appeal, comprehension, fluency, and quick decision. Aesthetic appeal. See a product. There's some cues that I get from the product, and my brain. So, a product need to be aesthetically appealing to the customer who I want to sell. So, first point goes with the aesthetic appeal. Visual cues or different in it, or you need to understand it and to know whether you want to buy that product or not. So that entirely understand based on the visual cue is the comprehension fluency. And when you are to come into a conclusion whether you want to buy the product or not.
That's absolutely great. But you know what? I think that you have a lot of insight into the brain of a consumer. So don't you think that can be used into manipulating the consumer into buying the particular product? Do you think that's possible? Do you think people use neuromarketing for that?
That's an excellent question, and I will be glad to share you that when I was telling people like I'm going to speak about neuromarketing, they some of my friend commented that don't you think you're hacking the brain using neuromarketing? So yes, I also got overwhelmed by after studying techniques and all like we are hacking the minds. So absolutely not. Why I'm going to tell this because there's a fine line between nudge and deceive. When you're deceiving a person, when you're manipulating your customer, suppose your product is not that of good quality, but you use neuromarketing strategies to sell it. It will sell for the first cycle. But if your product is not good, the cycle of the business will stop and it will in turn generate a negative impact for that company itself. So deceiving is not what we promote in neuromarketing. Is to nudge people or nudge customer to make a
Into
better
buying
choice.
that product. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, but you know, when we talk about marketing, I think we all understand the power of branding, and we know how much branding can influence the decision of the consumer. So how exactly? What's the role of neuromarketing in when it comes to branding, and how is the brain of the consumer responding to branding?
Oh, that's a great question. I think we have the next slide for that, and Tulika is going to speak about that.
So over here, I would like to give a practical example of how neuromarketing is applied in our day-to-day lives. So in 2017, Google launched this instant money transfer app known as Google Pays.
Okay.
But what happened was that the Google Pays app did not gain that much popularity as what Google might have expected. So after some time, they changed the logo and renamed this Google Pays app as Google Pay app, and and included the G symbol of the Google. So what do you think, and why do you think that Google might have done this?
Because people don't know what Taze is, but people know what Google is, and Google has that power of branding. So the minute you include Google का ये जो branding का symbol है, you include that, I'm sure the sales must have gone up because branding.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Exactly. You're very right, Ananya. And I would just like to add some points to that. Basically, we can associate ourselves to the G symbol of the Google because Google is a very popular brand, and also it gives us the amount of assurance that we need. So the security, because it's a money transfer app, so thus we need assurance, some level of assurance. So the G symbol automatically added that to the brand.
Another example with me where neuromarketing and the practices given by it are put to use.
Okay, so if I talk about some of the basic daily life tinkering that neuromarketing people does is, have you noticed the autoplay symbol in YouTube, or if I say the next episode symbol when you're watching any series in Netflix or in Amazon Prime? You might have noticed that. So, what is the reason behind putting this next episode, autoplay symbol in this? So, our brain has a tendency to complete a task. So,
Okay.
once it completes a task, there's a certain lag period that happens, and again the brain start a new task. To So in that lag period, there can be a possible thing that your conscious thinking may get triggered, and you will try to rate the previous episode. Like, you have seen a episode of a series and you have a lag, and then you rated it 6 out of 10. So the possibility of you watching the next episode decreases, because you have already triggered your conscious thinking. But if we don't allow the brain to complete the loop, rather we generate or give a new stimulus before completing the loop, we are actually deleting out this lag period. So that's how the series or the Netflix people have designed their series. So before the episode ends, actually, you
Could it
get this.
could it also be because the brain finds it easier to just continue with what it is already doing than starting with a new task? Could that also be a possibility?
Is that
Just
exactly
doing
also a part
whatever
of
you're
it? Yeah.
doing instead of starting with something new, which might require more effort.
Yes, exactly. What I talked
Yeah.
about lag period is the brain has to reboot it again to start a new episode. Rather than, if
Right,
I'm continuing the loop, it will follow a same loop and complete watching the entire series episode by episode. So that's how,
right.
before ending the particular series, we put this next episode button to generate a next stimulus before the task actually ends.
That's some really good stuff right there. Okay.
Oh, okay. So you might be getting like how we started or how neuroscience came into the field. When did the concept of consumer neuroscience emerge? So
Right.
in mid 2000, there were various studies that were being conducted from various universities. So one of the two studies I want to tell you about is,
Okay.
first is the 2004 Emory University study.
All
So
right.
Pepsi and Coca-Cola almost both taste the same.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did, they collected 50 people, and they gave them random Pepsi or Coca-Cola, random drinks, without telling what are the drinks they're actually serving them. And they noted that which part of the brain were actually stimulated at that time. So there was random stimulating or random test sensors getting stimulated in brain. But they did the second set of experiment in which they told them that they are serving them Coca-Cola. So in this, there are two cases. Suppose I am a person, I like Coca-Cola. So when they give me Coca-Cola, when they rather say I am giving you Coca-Cola, my emotional pathway got triggered, or my memory pathway got triggered, hippocampus got triggered, and
Okay.
emotional pathway or emotional system got stimulated. But suppose I don't like Coca-Cola, and somebody served me telling that I'm giving you a Coca-Cola. So there was a negative response that was also seen. So
All
this
right. Maybe this could be because people associate some good memory with Coca-Cola. Maybe they were doing something good and they were drinking Coca-Cola at the same time, and so now they're associating that good memory with Coca-Cola, which is resulting into this kind of a positive response.
Exactly,
Which
exactly. Not only in Coca-Cola, I will give you a small example, just in addition. Like, we generally are very emotional about some of the old ads, like Parle G, the packaging we
Like
use in Parle G,
even Maggie,
even Maggie, and for that, say, the Amul butter we use. So these are basically
Kissan Jam.
the emotional aspect of the advertisement that we generate, that the advertisement has compelled us to generate, rather.
right, right.
Now
So
Tulika
I
can speak
will,
about the in-seed experiment.
yeah. So I would like to discuss another research study which was conducted by the Business School INSEAD. So they conducted this wine testing experiment on 30 participants. In the study, what they did was they gave them 3 samples of wine. They didn't tell the people that the samples of wine were from the same bottle. Okay, but before giving them the samples of wine, every time they changed the price. So for the first time when they when they gave the sample, it was labeled as for 3 euros. The second time when they gave the sample, it was for 6 euros. And for the third time when they gave the sample, it was for 18 euros. So now what happened when they were asked to give their responses of which one of them did they like the most, all the participants, majority of the participants stated that the 18 euro bottle tasted the best.
Okay.
So basically that was due to the perception that people already had that costlier is better. So this research study basically gives an idea of some of the already formed perceptions that people have.
I see. That's great. Really interesting. Okay, so what's next?
So we're going to talk about some of the technologies that are being used
Okay.
in
So that
neuromarketing.
actually brings a question into my mind. These studies that you've done, how did you collect the data for it? How does neuromarketing collect the
Yeah.
data for these studies to take place?
Yeah. So I would like to explain. 95% of the decisions that we make as consumers are unconscious or taken subconsciously. In the earlier traditional methods, the responses from the consumers were taken through surveys and through interviews, in which people could consciously report their feedback for the particular product, but that did not address the question of unconscious mind, unconscious decision making. So basically, now we use this cutting edge technology. This is the new technology that we use, which focuses more on attributing the unconscious aspects of human behavior, of consumer behavior. So it uses neuroscientific principles into the market for marketing. So now I have enlisted on the slide some of the techniques which we use nowadays for collecting data. Some of them, so the first one I would like to talk about is pupillometry. Now we know that the pupil size gets dilated or constricted due to certain stimulus. So pupillometry basically is a technique which measures the changes in the pupil size.
Isn't it
Now you might have
whenever you like something and you look at that, your pupil increases in size by I think 45% or something of that sort. So basically, is this what?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. You are right. So this is what happens in pupillometry. Whenever people are aroused or whenever people are paying attention towards a particular stimulus, the size of the pupil gets increased or the pupil gets dilated. So that is what the pupillometry technique measures. Now the second technique is EEG, which stands for electroencephalography. Now we know that the neurons in our body transmit electrical signals. So basically, EEG takes that thing into consideration. Now you might have seen some of the images in which some electrodes are placed on some participants' brain, and some graphs are formed on some monitor screen. So that is basically what EEG does. How much of a brain is activated, according to that, it collects the graphs. So if the graph has more ups and downs, that means person is paying more attention towards a particular stimulus or the person is more aroused in looking towards a particular stimulus. So EEG takes in consideration into that.
Okay.
The next, yo, you can continue.
No, that's it. Vivas, continue.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's really interesting. That's all.
The next thing is fMRI, that is functional magnetic resonance imaging, which is also a neuroscientific tool that we use for neuromarketing. What it does is basically visualize the brain's blood flow to, like, it basically does the brain's blood flow to visualize the understanding process or underlying process of how a consumer behave. When you particularly see a product, what are the blood flow level, or how are the blood flow level getting altered or getting changed in your brain? It's what fMRI sees. Facial.
All right. So basically, certain parts of the brain, they start becoming activated the moment you see a product that you really like, and this is what it's analyzing.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
great.
Facial
What's the
coding.
next one?
Yeah, facial coding and heat map. Facial coding or heat map are basic. These are the two tools that we use. Facial coding measures the unconscious twitches or unconscious nods that you make when you're visualizing a particular product. Suppose I give you a lace packet in front of you, and there might be, you might like it, so you will nod, say, suppose at the right side. You may not like it, so you might suppose nod your head towards the left side. So these are some of the unconscious twitches that happens in our body. So facial coding actually measure this all. What about the heat map? The heat map techniques basically use the eye tracking devices, where we use eye tracking methods to see which are the parts or which are the points in that particular product are getting more attention as soon as we are seeing the product. So using eye tracking, we actually design how beautifully or how contrasting feature we can add in a particular advertisement to get more attention or to impart more visual cue from that particular advertisement.
All right. Okay. And what's the last one? GSR.
Yeah, so the next technique is GSR, which is galvanic skin response. It is a pretty fascinating technique because it is also used in lie detector tests.
Okay.
So what happens in lie detector test is some of the electrodes are placed on the skins of the person we have to interrogate. Now, whenever a person becomes very conscious or is very tensed or is aroused, basically, so the skin, the sweat glands that are present on the skin starts producing more and more sweat. Now this sweat can be detected by the electrodes that we have placed on the skin, and thus we can get to know the pattern, like the person is tensed or is aroused, like that.
Okay, so basically, we are not thinking machines that get emotional. We are emotional machines that think. Is put in by you guys.
Yes.
But I
Yes,
have a very quick question for you. After hearing all of this, this question just popped in my mind. Do you think you can predict the buying decision of a consumer before he or she even makes that decision on the basics of analyzing these responses? On the basis of analyzing these responses, can you predict whether the consumer, what decision the consumer will make? Can you do that?
yes, exactly. We can do that because, for that matter, we actually can't do that with a single technique. We have to merge or we have to unite some of the techniques. Like we can use fMRI and pupillometry and facial coding to get the cues that we are being able to generate in the mind of the customer, and to come into a conclusion from our side whether the consumer is going to buy the product or not.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
it can
basically,
be predicted to a certain extent.
yeah.
Oh my
So
god.
basically, all of these techniques have certain limitations. So we cannot just be focusing on one of the techniques. We have to generally use multiple techniques together.
All right. Great. I see. So,
Yeah. So we are talking about the brain. So this is a basic structure of the brain where we have the frontal lobe, then the parietal lobe, then the occipital lobe, and then the temporal lobe.
okay.
So parietal lobe actually does the all integration of the impulses or stimulus from the that are coming from various parts of the body, and it also plays a major role in cognition or making decision.
Okay.
Next comes the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe brings into consideration all the decision making and all the judgment things that we do That is basically our conscious behavior. It takes into consideration our conscious behavior.
All right. Okay.
Then comes the occipital lobe. So occipital lobe is related to all the vision related activities. All the vision related activities like spatial recognition, product recognition, all of that are taken into account by occipital lobe.
I see. And so these
Then
different lobes basically they light up when different reactions comes from the customer. So you know these they will start, I don't know, lighting up or showing activity at different stages. Like the customer notices a particular product, so a different part will light up. Then she starts liking it, and a different part will start showing activity. Is this how it goes?
Yes, because we have different centers, like for as Tulika mentioned that for visual cue we have occipital lobe, for
Okay.
uh, hearing we have as temporal lobe. So when we are getting different cues from a particular product that is being displayed or particular advertisement that is being displayed, there are
Okay.
different stimulus that is being generated in different parts of the brain.
All right. Okay. And you can see, how you present a certain product, the way you're presenting it, and then you can compare it with the way the brain is showing activity, and you can see whether, that particular marketing strategy is working out or not.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Perfect.
Now we are diving into a major part of the brain brain system, which is called the limbic system, which is the emotional pathway, and Tulika will explain you the same.
Okay.
so limbic system is a part of the brain that is responsible for all the emotional and memory related activities.
Okay.
So limbic system comprises of 4 parts, which we have depicted over here with the help of a cute hippo. So this hippo is wearing a hat. So this is like a mnemonic to remember which of the parts are involved in the limbic system. So the
Hat.
4 parts are yeah. So the
Alright.
4 parts are hypothalamus, amygdala, thalamus, and hippocampus. Now I would give a brief introduction to all of these brain parts. So first is the thalamus. Whenever we receive any stimulus, any sensation, so basically, first of all, the sensation goes to the thalamus, and then the thalamus divides it according to the particular lobe. For example, if we are getting vision related stimulus, so the thalamus will relay the information to the occipital lobe.
Okay.
It acts as a relay station. Next is the amygdala. So amygdala is related for all the emotional activities. It is related for arousal. It is related for fight and flight responses also, our anxiety responses, our anger, violence, etc.
Okay.
Now, one of the major part that neuromarketing people are interested in is like creating memory. Why memory? Because as I already said, when you see a product, you tend to remember it only if it is tasting good or only if it is tasting extremely bad. You generate memory about that.
Right.
So I can give you an example. Like when you see a Parle G packet, you always get connected. Okay, I have used this product in my childhood. So this is basically the memory. So in this limbic system, there's a very important and delicate system which is called the hippocampus, which is present just above the thalamus, which roughly works to convert the short-term memory, that is the STM, to the long-term memory. So a product which is you say it's new to the market or a startup company mainly focuses to create such an impression in such a way that as soon
It
as
gets
you,
stored in your memory. A
yeah,
very good consumer
Yeah.
experience, basically.
because
And
when
you
you get a
know,
good consumer
yeah,
experience, you associate the positivity with that long term memory as well.
yeah, and you want to experience it again and again. You want to,
Yes.
right? So that means more
And
sales for the company.
yeah, and also another part of the brain that we are interested, that very key to the limbic system, is hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is a key or a bridge between the nervous system as well as the endocrinal system. So after getting a particular stimulus that is being relayed to the different part, there must be some changes that need to come in the body, which actually hypothalamus. Hypothalamus signal the endocrinal system to secrete different type of hormones, and this hormones, the disbalance of the hormones generally create moods, emotions, and
I see.
everything.
All right, that's great. I love the biology part of it. But whenever we go into a particular store, we have a particular product in mind. So I want to buy this or I want to buy that. That's the type of mindset I have when I walk into the store. So does neuromarketing make use of this? The fact that this mindset that I'll be having when I am buying a particular product, or I'm just going to a place and buying something. Does it make use of that?
Yeah. So exactly. Now we come to answer your question. Now we come to perception theories. So what are these perception theories? There are
Okay.
three perception theories. So as you said that you are going to market to buy a particular product. So let's say I'm
Yeah.
going to buy a bottle of fruity. So I'm going to buy a bottle of fruity, but as soon as I enter the juice center where the fruity and other drinks are placed, I'm going to talk about the signal detection theory. So suppose fruity is placed at one of the shelf, but in the vicinity of the fruity bottle, there is also a Mountain Dew bottle which is imparting a fluorescent color to you. So
Okay.
as a customer, you are intending to buy fruity, but when you see some fluorescent or attracting or rather highly salient visual cue from the other side, you tend to distract, or you
Okay.
tend to interfere, or that visual cue tend to interfere your decision, or may shift the probability of you buying fruity rather than buying that buying that product of Mountain Dew. So
Okay.
signal detection theory actually investigates the effect of distraction and interference we
Okay.
experience while perceiving the world.
Leading
Now,
you to buy more than you had initially planned. I
yes,
mean, I think that
Yeah.
happens with all of us. You walk into a store and you're like, I'm just going to buy these 5 products, that's it. But then you go and you just have so many bags because you can't stop yourself. And that just
Yeah,
might be
we
what,
basically end up buying a lot of things which we never thought.
yeah,
so that's one of the cognitive bias as well that we're going to talk
Yeah,
about in
yeah.
the later slides. But now
yeah,
coming to top down and bottom up processing. What is top down and bottom up processing? So again, taking the example of fruity. As soon as you enter the supermarket and you are determined to buy fruity, you go to the juice center and you pick up the fruity bottle and you come back to the cash center and you buy it. So this is a conscious decision because you have
all
consciously
right.
made your mind to buy a
Mm-hmm.
particular product that is fruity.
Right.
But when you're going to buy fruity, you have to pass, say, suppose a jam center. Like after the entry, there's a jam center and there's a juice center after that. So while passing through the jam center, you see a product which is highly contrasting or which is highly attracting to you, although you're not intended to buy that product, but you end
Okay.
up buying that product as well along with the fruity. So this
I
type of process is called bottom up processing.
It's the game of colors and proper packaging, and you can really
Yes.
attract the customer, even if he or she hasn't planned on buying it, but they might just
Yes,
end up
yes.
buying it.
Yeah,
All right.
not only colors, it's also depend on the price, how we're tagging, how we're putting the discount, how we're making combos, everything,
All
every
right.
small things.
And
So
neuromarketing has to play a role in all of it, from
all
pricing
of
to packaging to the way you're selling it, everything.
everything. And most surprisingly, this bottom up processing is being used by the startup companies, because when a
Okay.
product is being launched, you're not determined to buy that product. You only get determined to buy the product once you have used it. So bottom up processing is being targeted by the startup companies.
Okay. I
Now,
see.
as you talk about the discount and everything process, I think Tulika has a slide just after this which going to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so before explaining what difference threshold and Weber's law is, I would like to give you an example of our day-to-day life.
Okay.
Suppose I take a glass of milk and I add 1 teaspoon of sugar to it. Would it make much of a difference?
No, not really.
No, it won't make much of a difference. But now suppose instead of putting 1 teaspoon of sugar, I put 1 tablespoon of sugar. That will definitely make the milk sweet and good in taste.
Yeah.
So basically, that is what the Weber's law states. It states that whatever changes we are making,
Okay.
for example, the sugar that we are adding should be enough for us to perceive the change. So change should be proportional to the original intensity. Now, this example is very well used by Udemy. So
Okay.
initially, when Udemy launched its courses, so the courses were of the range of 10,000 to 12,000 approximately. But then what they did was they applied 40 to 60% of discount on the courses, which made the price go down to around 2,000 to 3,000. Prices, because we can see so much discount, so they are very much attracting us towards doing
It was
those courses.
actually a marketing gimmick, introducing it at a higher price and then after some time really reducing the price to attract customers.
Yeah, exactly. So basically increasing the attractiveness of the products.
I see. Really interesting. Okay. So what's next? What are you planning to discuss now?
So we are planning. Sorry for the mess up that I did with the
That's all right.
presentation. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So we are going to talk about how the emotional content is being used in the advertisement. So
Basically,
before,
more of the psychological aspect of neuromarketing is now going to be discussed, I guess.
yeah, more of
Yeah.
psychological
Yeah.
part.
So before explaining how emotional content is used in advertisements, I would like to give the example of the experiment conducted by Ivan Pavlov. So we all might have heard about the experiment that he
I have.
conducted on dogs.
I
Yeah.
think it involved a dog and a bell, and every time you rang the bell, the dog he would be excited because he'd be expecting a meal coming up, and
Yes.
I think it's something like
Yes.
that.
Yes. That is absolutely correct. So
Okay.
basically, Ivan Pavlov was trying to study the salivation effects of food on the dog. So what happened was initially he used to feed the dog with some food, and there was this response of salivation. Then what happened before the dog the food, he used to ring a bell, and after that he used to give the food. So ultimately, after many times he did this experiment, as soon as the person used to ring the bell, the dog used to start salivating. So this is the thing, basically the dog associated the food with the bell. That is, as soon as the bell will be rung, we will get food. So that is basically what is used in emotional advertising nowadays.
All right.
So taking that response or taking the explanation of what Ivan Pavlov used in the dog experiment, I'm giving you a example that we see in daily life. So I have scribbled up something on the right hand side of my presentation. So I will explain that as well. So unconditional stimulus. So what do we mean by unconditional stimulus? So stimulus can be visual cue, like known stimulus. If we talk about known stimulus, it can be smell, it can be light sensation, it can be anything. But when I show you pictures, let's say suppose only I'm showing you the picture of the Colgate, which is not actually connecting you with the product. It's not getting you any conditioned stimulus. So we can consider this Colgate as an unconditioned stimulus. So when you see a Colgate, so which is an unconditioned stimulus, you generate an unconditioned response. The same that happened with Ivan Pavlov experiment. When Pavlov used the whistle, there was no response from the dog. There was always a 50-50 chance whether the dog would come or dog would not come. But when Pavlov associated the uh, whistle with the food, that entire thing became conditioned stimulus because food is a known stimulus for the dog. Similarly, in this case, when we associate a figure or a public figure which is smiling, we are actually turning this unconditional stimulus, that is, in this case, the only Colgate as a material, and in Ivan Pavlov experiment, only vessel as a material, we are changing this into a conditioned stimulus.
Okay.
As a result, this conditional stimulus is activating or it's stimulating a conditioned response. So, what do you mean by conditioned response? Conditioned response means your probability of buying that particular product increases
Okay.
because you are actually somewhere in the unconscious mind of the customer generating a stimulus which is known to the
You're
customer
actually
itself.
programming the customer to behave in a certain way. To a
Yeah,
certain extent, you are doing that.
yes.
All right. Okay.
So these are the some of the examples that are basically used in the emotional content as well. So first picture you can see that this was a recently launched Coca-Cola ad they made
Okay.
after Black and White Life Matter to depict the black scenario of Black and Life Matter. So basically you can see it is a picnic scenario that they have created, and they have created the green Coca-Cola bottle, black Coca-Cola bottle, then white Coca-Cola bottle to create a diversity as well as to create a unity. So
And
by
appeal to
doing
a certain community. And since people have right now, they are understanding what that particular community might be going through, other people can also, they might actually like this advertisement because Coca-Cola is recognizing that and is standing in support with the particular movement.
yes,
So,
exactly, to say that, like you mentioned 2 points, so it is actually emotionally connecting the people, and it is also
okay.
giving the customer a feel of social validation of what going into the society, and like connecting the
Alright.
society of what they're bringing in
And
to
then
the
making the
market.
customer feel good about the fact that I am associating with a brand that is in support of this particular movement. So every time the customer will pick up the product of that particular brand, he or she will also feel good about himself or herself. Because I
Exactly,
mean that's a
exactly.
factor. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. Vivas and Tulika, I also have one more question for you. So nowadays, these companies they're coming up with various schemes, right? You know, a lot of discount, scratch cards, and all of that. So what role does neuromarketing play in this, or is it actually a strategy that is being introduced by neuromarketing? Whether it's Instagram ka like or comments, or it is you're getting this much discount. What's the science behind it?
Oh, that's a great question. That was exactly our next slide. Is we talk about reward circuit. So what
Okay.
actually is reward circuit? So, to go a bit detail about how we are addressing the reward circuit, we are going to go into a little bit detail of the neuroscience part. So we have a major neurotransmitter that is responsible for reward pathway is the dopamine. So dopamine is mainly secreted or mainly get secreted with the help from this area called ventral tegmental area, which is VTA. From that, it goes to different parts of the brain.
Okay.
So there are different parts which are associated: amygdala, nucleus accumbens, hippocampus, prefrontal cortex as well. So, giving you an example, I am eating a cake. The cake, the visual cue I'm getting from the cake is very good. The smell is very good. The taste is very good. So this all three Q will activate by VTA to generate a dopamine surge. The dopamine will then move to amygdala, which will create a happiness or a happiness content, the emotional happiness content. As a result, not as a result, like dopamine will always also go to hippocampus, which will also sense that amygdala is sensing it in a good fashion. So yeah, even if I eat cake after some time, I will get the same type of dopamine surge. So hippocampus will be readily making the long-term memory associated with lot of positivity or good content. Seeing
Basically, the
the
interplay
cake.
of so many factors in the brain to even generate a small response. There's it's just an interplay of so many factors and so many. Just like it's really complicated, but you guys are making it easy for us. We're able to
Yes,
understand it better.
yes, exactly. It's like brain is not a single entity. Like there is not always a single part of the brain that is getting stimulated. It's different parts of the brain that is getting stimulated at the same time from the
Yeah.
same visual cue. So as a result, I talk about memory, I talked about emotion. There's also a part I call nuclear accumbens, which is responsible for the motor action. So according to what emotion you are having, suppose you're having a cake, so nuclear accumbens will work accordingly. So nuclear accumbens will tell you that okay, if you like the cake, go ahead, move your hand, use the fork, and take a bite again. You will generate the same type of dopamine surge. So these three
Right.
parts generates a mesolimbic pathway. Another important thing is when dopamine is released from VTA, dopamine also travel to prefrontal cortex. Why prefrontal cortex? Because uh, dopamine increase the brain means increase, it's related to the reward circuit. Dopamine also responsible for how well you're enjoying it. So what prefrontal cortex does, it increases your attention, it elevates your mood or elevates your experience while you're tasting a particular thing. So suppose you got a award in a particular award ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Before taking the award, you generate a certain type of rush of dopamine in you, and you become so much you like there's so much attention, and there's so much like there's a euphoria type of moment that creates before you get the award.
Okay.
So this is what dopamine does.
I see. It's really interesting stuff. Also, I think whenever we are making decisions, we are loaded with a set of preconceived notions about that particular product or topic. So how do we deal with it, and how is neuromarketing making use of it? Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, so before
Yeah.
talking that, we are going to give some of the other example of how reward circuit is
Okay,
being
sure,
used in neuromarketing. So
sure.
here it goes.
So now we will talk about dopamine level fluctuations.
Okay,
In the previous slide, Bivas already explained that dopamine is associated with the reward circuit. So many studies were conducted by various researchers in order to understand how much level of dopamine is released whenever we are rewarded with something.
okay,
So they conducted various experiments on monkeys. So in the first set of experiment, monkey was supposed to do a task, and as soon as monkey performed that task, he was given food. That is 100% reward was given on completion of the task. Next time what he did was, in the next set of experiments, he only used to give the reward in 75% of the times.
okay,
That is, that monkey was now very uncertain that whether he will get the reward this time after doing the work or not. So in this case, what the researchers observed was that the dopamine level increased.
okay.
Then they
So
conducted the
basically, in
next set of,
anticipation of the reward, the person tries and does that particular task again and again, and at the same time, dopamine is being produced as well. So, this is
yes,
something I see.
yes. So basically, the thing is that dopamine level increases whenever we are uncertain about particular thing. This is what happens when people gamble. When people gamble, they cannot usually quit the game and leave it in between, because what happens as soon as they start gambling, they're very uncertain that the next time when they play, they will win or they will lose. That increases the dopamine level to such an extent that they cannot leave the game in between, even if they are constantly losing their money or other valuable properties. Examples of the dopamine level fluctuations that are used in apps will be given by Bivas.
Okay.
So as you can see, as you mentioned about scratch card, Ananya, so this scratch card or for that same matter cashback that we get in various payment app, including Google Pay or some of the other payment apps. So this actually work on this process, because every time you scratch something, you're not getting money, because often I like whenever I scratch a scratch card in a Google, I always see that better luck next time.
Mm-hmm.
So there is always a chance of uncertainty that releases this dopamine surge, and this dopamine surge is very essential to continue or to maintain the interest of the person, as Tulika rightly mentioned in the case of gambling, toward the particular app. This reward system pathway is very well used in various social apps like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, where our likes, comments, this all are the reward system that we get. Nowadays, it is very well designed in the case of learning apps like Baiju. So I was recent days I was watching my small brother, younger brother, to do the Baiju app. So I saw that the entire course is divided into levels or divided into games. So as soon as you complete one task, you are given certain awards. Though the award can be in the form of some stars or some hat type of thing. Even Unacademy uses this. Unacademy gives a particular after watching
Yes.
for a particular hour, they give you a hat like green hat, purple hat. This all makes our dopamine level fluctuate
So
every time we get something.
that craving for that emotional rush, the craving for that dopamine keeps you at it, and as I can see, it's being really effectively used by so many companies all around. Ah,
Yes, exactly. And another example I want to quote you. So this is one of the type of games you can say. So a perfect example of the game I will give you. So when
okay.
Angry Birds launched for the first time in India, if you play the Angry Bird game, there are easy levels, and people were easily crossing the levels and getting into the higher levels. So which is actually increasing your dopamine surge with each and every level you're passing down. But
All right.
what happened in the second edition of what Angry Birds launched, it's like after a particular level, like let's say after level 10, they made the game so hard that people hardly could cross the 11th level. So as a result, the second app were hardly successful in the market as compared to the first app, which were used like they actually ruled the market during the time when they were launched.
That's really interesting, and oh my god, the just that insight of how the brain will respond to these marketing gimmicks can really make your that particular marketing campaign so successful. And the more I'm reading it, the more scared and excited I am getting at the same time. So that's pretty cool. What's next? What's next? Okay.
So many people may ask, like, where does neuromarketing works, or which point of marketing or which point of the downstream processing neuromarketing works. So it works in two strategies. Like
Okay.
if you have already made a product and you want to price it and strategize it, or devise a particular marketing or advertising strategies that you want to develop for that particular product,
All right.
or you want to create a product. So when you want to create a product, what do? You
And
go
maybe
around.
even packaging right now is playing an important role, right? The way you're
Yes.
packaging that product, the colors you're using, all sorts of that is also included in this part that you are going to talk about. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The packaging, all is related to the advertising and the marketing strategies that we're using. Not only packaging, along
Okay.
with how we are using the price, how we are discounting it, how we are using the
How
Weber
you're
slabs
presenting
for
it
that
to the
matter.
consumer so that he or she feels that they are actually making the right decision, but it's actually pretty much planned to a certain extent. How the
Yes.
consumer can react, the probability of how he or she will react. But the consumer doesn't know that, and the consumer feels that he or she is in control of the decisions that they are making, when in fact, to a certain extent, that has been influenced. Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
all right.
And
So
also, if you have a product, if you want to create, or people may ask, like, can neuromarketing work if I am creating a product? Yes, it can work. How
Okay.
it can work? Suppose if I'm a FMCG company, I'm launching a product of jam, fruit jam. So what I
Okay.
will do, I will go around to the customer or to the consumer to get their insights, to get their
Right.
experience, and we will also do a marketing study along with this, with what all jam bottles or with what all jam, other companies' jam bottles are doing with it. So actually, we can end up building a particular product which is tasting good as well as relating to the emotional content. In the emotional content, it will result in generating a memory. When it will generate a memory, then the short-term memory will be converted to the long-term memory, and here continues a loop.
And the customer will keep coming back and buying that service or that product.
Yes, exactly. That's how it continues the loop.
Right.
So Bivas rightly said in the previous slide that if we have to sell a particular product, we have to design the strategies according to that. So the most important thing that we have to focus on the appearance of the product, that is the aesthetic appeal, or which is also known as the saliency of the product. We have to make it stand out amongst other things in order to sell it. That is the whole concept of the bottom up processing. For example, whenever we are selling a new particular product or one brand is launching itself, so they have to make the product in such a contrasting way that it appears out amongst the other things that are present on the same board. Okay, so one of the most important thing is that. Then second thing that we have to take into consideration is the pricing and discount, as what Bevas said earlier. So firstly, let's look upon how we increase the saliency of the product. That is how we make it look more better. So this involves the principles of Gestalt. Gestalt, we might have heard about Gestalt. It's yeah. So there are very many theories that he gave, many principles that he gave, which I would like to explain one by one.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the next slide. So first of all, on the slide, we can see the image of a panda. Now, this is the logo which is used by WWF. So in that logo, what they have done is that they haven't completed the entire image of the panda. Rather, they have made it look like panda. So what happens is we always try to complete the image. So since the panda, they haven't mentioned all the dotted lines which we have showed. So we focus more on looking into the image and we spend more time. So that is how the whole concept of graphic designing works.
Basically, it's helping in attracting the attention of the consumer and also the arousal, because the consumer will notice it, try to complete the image, and in that process, you're grabbing his or her attention towards yourself, because you're like, hey, complete this image, and the customer will start paying more attention. Pretty much that.
Yes, exactly. And even the concept that we all like to solve puzzles. They are very intriguing, and we involve our brain in that, and that is the concept which many of the companies use.
I see.
Talking about the talking about the next law, which is the law of continuity. So as Tulika mentioned, our brain likes to solve puzzle.
Yeah.
So if I say for example, if I say you have to complete a particular sense. Okay, so I'm saying you have to complete the word T space P. So you can write TOP top, you can write TIP tip, you can write TAP tap. So these are all the things which we want to complete it. So it's a law of continuity. So our eyes search for continuous forms and tends to form a smooth patterns. So if you see the logo of IBM, it is very like disrupted, but in a continuous disruption that is being formed. So our brain prefers to interpret this visual information. Our brains love to work out things.
Okay, so the main thing over here is we like to interpret stuff, try to understand it on our own terms than something just being directly presented to us.
And in the process of interpreting stuff, we end up paying more attention towards the logo. And that's the aim of the company.
I see. Great.
Okay, so now before explaining the law of figure or ground, I would like to place one question. that in this image that I have put, what can you see?
Oh, I can see two people looking at each other, but I can also see a vase just at the
Yes.
center.
So this is the classical image which generates illusions in our brain. So by creating an illusionary image, what the company or whatever the designer is trying to do is that it is making us look more and more deeply into the image, and hence we remember this image. Now this image is like a very old image, like many years old, but still it will always be in our mind because it is a very illusionary image. We can see many things in this image, and also we cannot differentiate between the background and the foreground in this image.
So every time
Either
this
of the
image
two.
is being presented to us, we are going to try and make more sense out of it. And so this strategy is actually quite successful because every time you're trying to make sense of what is being presented to you, which means more attention every single time you look at that particular product.
Yes, exactly.
Great.
Now we talk about the law of similarity.
Okay.
So, whenever you read a newspaper, you will see that the headlines follow a particular font. The text follow a particular font. So, law of similarity talks about this. So, if I say I'm using a heading, when I say the word heading, you actually relate that I will be using a particular font or particular shape. So, a particular shape is associated for a particular cue. I'm using a larger heading, that means, or larger font, I'm using a larger font, that means I want to say that this is a heading. So Gessold law of similarity talks about this: similarity based on the shape, similarity based on the size, and
And
similarity based on the
and
color.
is it also because humans like uniformity? And so more similar more similar shapes or a more similar font means a certain uniformity, and you just find it easier to read and comprehend compared to something that's a little, I'd like to say, messed up, or not that uniform.
Yeah, uniformity, human brain like to decode uniformity,
Okay.
but when we're using uniformity, we are also using for this matter as like using two different uniformity, we are going to give two different visual cue.
Okay.
For example, I'm designing a Tetra Pak bottle. Okay, Tetra Pak. So in that, I have put image of mangoes and other fruits out there by using a
Right.
particular color or by using similar color. So this is clubbed together, which is giving you a particular cue. Okay, these are the fruits that are being used for this Tetra Pak. But at the bottom of the Tetra Pak, or at like somewhere below down, I'm using you are aware of the non-veg and the veg tag that we use, using entirely different
Yeah.
color or different shape, or the its own shape, the symbol that we use for non-veg and veg thing. So that is another different color, which is giving me another visual cue. So by seeing
Okay.
at the Tetra Pak, which is actually designed to sell a particular product, we are getting different cues. So these different cues that are generated are basically due to the law of similarity, based
All
on
right.
shape, based on size, and based on color.
Okay.
So for explaining the principle of symmetry, I would like to give our daily home example. Suppose you organize your room and you keep each of the things in their particular place. And suppose if any one of the thing is not on that particular place, and if your mom enters into the room, she can, I don't know how, but she can pick up that one particular thing which we have not put in the particular place. This principle of symmetry. We can see basically unsymmetrical objects create a tension in our eye. So we like symmetry for easy perception, as this is used in the designing of websites. For example, you can see in the first thing that the purple and the gray patterns are organized very randomly and it is not really creating any sense. But in the second slide, we can see that it has made the purple and the gray pieces in a very alternating manner and in a very symmetrical manner.
Right.
So the second slide suits much better in our eyes. So this is what the principle of symmetry talks about.
Okay.
Then we are going to talk about the law of proximity. So again, putting you the example of the Tetra Pak. Now I'm buying a mixed fruit Tetra Pak. Okay, mixed fruit juice Tetra Pak. So all the fruits are clubbed together. So
Right.
as a result, when the objects are closely placed to each other, we tend to perceive that as a whole information. So if I go and buy Tetra Pak and cereal fruit juice Tetra Pak, and every or the other fruits are clubbed together, that is giving me a particular single visual cue. So this is what
Right.
law of proximity talks about. Here, as you can see, that using different symbols, we have tried to create or tried to give a shape of a dog. So
And
when I see the
using,
image for the first
yeah,
time, yeah,
and these laws, they're not just used to typically package that product, but they're also being used in the way that you design a particular store. You want to keep things that are related more close to each other, so that's also it's being used that way also. Is that?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very good point. That's a new application of the neuromarketing that we are going to talk about in our penultimate slide, I guess, where we
Okay.
talk about the built-in environment system, how the built-in environment system works, and not
Okay.
only in the aisle of the market or not only in the supermarket. We also talk about how we are going to design a workplace for a particular office or particular startup companies that have newly started, because this all are related to neuroscience psychological thing as well. So this is currently a new topic that we are going to talk about in our in some of the next slides.
Okay.
So coming to cognitive biases. Cognitive biases are some of the errors that we already have in our perception, in our
Basically
thinking process.
preconceived notions that we. Okay.
So that basically affects our decision making. We move ahead. I will explain each of the cognitive bias one by one. So first is the framing effect, which is very popularly used by many of the companies. For example, in this image, we can see that both of the products are depicting the same information. That is, the first image is saying that the product contains 20% fat. Even the second image is saying the same thing, that it is 80% fat free. But if we see that if the people are very health conscious, if people are health conscious, they would prefer to pick the second thing. And let's say if people are not very health conscious, they can go by either of the two. So
Right.
this is one of the thing that is used by many of the companies. It's basically they present the choice in such a way that it suits us. So whichever way suits us, we buy that.
See.
Second is the bandwagon effect. We have the tendency to follow the majority.
Right.
So again, I would like to give an example of our day-to-day life.
Okay.
For example, suppose I want to join a coaching institute.
Right.
So I am not very sure if I am confused between two coaching institutes, which one I want to go to study. Both of them are equally good. But now I know that 3 to 4 of my friends are going to a coaching institute A. And none of them are going, which I know, none of the people which I know are going to the coaching institute B. So I would automatically have a tendency to go in the A coaching institute. So this is basically the bandwagon effect. That is, we have the tendency to follow the herd.
And we tend to believe
It's
that
like
if so many
blindly.
people have a belief in this and are already going to this particular coaching institute, it must be good. We don't take the effort of finding out whether it's good or not. We usually just tend to think, so if so many people are going to this one, I think this must be better.
Yeah,
Yes.
so this
So
all cognitive biases are based mainly focuses on unconscious decisions that we take before
okay.
getting into involved in the conscious decision.
I see.
So the image over here is also. So go back to the previous slide.
Okay.
So the image over here also shows us one of the very daily, day-to-day life examples. Nowadays, all of us refer to online news or online magazines to read.
Right.
If we subscribe to one of the particular newsletter, so we will always see how many people are using that particular newsletter. So the first one does
Right.
not say any number, but the second one says that there are 51,000 plus people who are following that newsletter. So there will be a tendency of us to choose the second one, even if both of them might be equally good. So this is
And
basically
also
that.
because you always get more of a positive response when you tend to show the numbers compared to not showing them, because people trust numbers, and
Yes,
the moment you show it, you
yes.
get a better response.
This is also used, these strategies are also used by like Amazon and Flipkart. So basically they have the star rating thing. Now if a particular product has a rating of more than 4.5, we have the tendency to believe that that particular product would be good. So we can kind of blindly believe that that particular product would be good based on the ratings, and hence we can buy that.
Right.
So next we are going to talk about the decoy effect.
Yeah.
So suppose Ananya, I give you the option to choose between two
Okay.
popcorn bowl, a $6 popcorn bowl and a $2.5 popcorn bowl. Which one will you choose?
uh okay. Well, I love popcorn, so I might go with the $6 one. But
So when there are two options of choosing either $6 popcorn or $2.5 popcorn, there's always a probability that people might end up choosing 50% of the people might end up choosing $6 and might end up choosing $2.5. So there's always a distribution of 50 to 50%.
okay.
So what this decoy is, along with this two popcorn bowl, I'm keeping another popcorn bowl which is actually of $5.5, as you can see over here.
Right.
So technically speaking, there will be 33% of each getting bought or getting sold,
Right.
but the 33% of people who were about to buy $5.5 theoretically will tend to buy the $6 product.
Yeah.
So as a result, we will end up selling 66% of the $6 bucket.
So basically, the option of $5.5 is just put in there by the company, so that people they get diverted towards the $6 one, and it's just being put there so that you move on to the next option. That's pretty.
Yes, exactly. The $5.5 is used just as a decoy. It actually unconsciously convince you to buy the $6 product.
Right,
So
because yeah.
there was a nice study that was done by Simon Kutcher
Okay.
in somewhere around 2012, when
Okay.
he did this experiment based on the magazine. So
All
he
right.
was selling the online subscription for $59,
Okay.
and he was selling the print plus online subscription for $125. So what happened initially was, as he saw that there was always a 50-50% distribution between the online and print plus online option. So what he did, he cleverly anchored or cleverly put the decoy or this one as a decoy, where he
Right.
indulges print only for $125. So after introducing the print option only for $125, he saw a massive disruptive distribution between the print plus online distribution and the online magazine. So he saw there's a 16%. So from 50% it went down to 16%, and from here 15% it went up to 84%. So this print only option was used as a decoy to convince unconsciously people to buy print plus online option.
Okay.
Now we're going to talk about anchoring bias. So what is anchoring? So
Right.
suppose I'm going to buy a laptop. Before we buy any product, we try to figure out the estimated amount. So if I want to buy a laptop, I will say, okay, it may come around 45,000 to 55,000. So when we
Yeah.
actually land up buying laptop, we will end up buying a laptop which has a close or nearly close to the what we have estimated.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, this process was used to do anchoring. So there was a study which was done in an American supermarket where they were selling. Um, so soup
All right.
cans are usually placed in a pile in the
Mhm.
marketing place, and people used to buy like one people used to buy one can at a time, or maybe maximum two cans. So what they did, they wrote in a placard that was placed beside the can pile, and they said you can buy maximum of 12 cans.
Okay.
So by the end of the year, after placing that placard, they found out that initially where there were only one people buying one can, after the placard was placed, the average cans bought by a single person went from 1 to 7 cans. Now why that happened?
Right.
So when we put the placard of say 12 can you can maximum buy, we are actually setting up the anchoring tag of 12.
Right.
So whenever we are going to buy, we always want to buy or want to choose something or some number which is close to the estimated or close to the anchored price. So we
Okay.
buy so gradually the product sale increases. The sale of the product increases gradually.
So
So this
over here, you're also using neuromarketing to increase the sales as well, and not only introduce the product, but increase the sales of that product as well.
yes, exactly, because these are the biases that we already have in our mind.
Right.
These are already subdued in the mind, unconscious nature of how mind will behave in the unconscious situation.
I see. Great.
Uh,
Okay, so did you switch the slide, Vivas?
yes, I changed the slide.
Oh, it's still on the anchoring bias. I don't know.
Okay, it's still on the anchoring side.
Yeah,
Um,
Okay, wait. I need to share it again. Wait.
I guess it would be better.
I can,
Can,
yeah, I can see the next slide now. Zero risk bias.
is it visible now?
So, like, I think there is some issue with your internet because I really can't see you right now. I mean, I can hear you, but I can't see you. Your screen has just frozen.
Um, Ananya, is the slide visible to you?
Yeah, the slide is visible to me.
Okay, I will go directly to the um, zero risk bias.
Okay.
So Tulika joins in. I can I can talk about the zero
Yeah,
risk
yeah, I
bias.
can see her now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, Tulika, are you there?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for the network issue.
It's all right, no issues.
Okay. So coming back to the zero risk bias, basically we prefer assurance, we prefer security.
Yes, exactly. The costlier
Yes.
seems to be better. Every time the costlier
Right.
seems to be better. So, example as Tulika gave wine. So we can just quickly move to the next slide then, which talks about the authority bias.
So before explaining this authority bias, I would like to put up a question. Why do you think majority of the brands use celebrities to endorse their products?
Because people like celebrities, people relate to celebrities, and celebrities themselves have put in so much effort into creating an image for themselves, and people like that image. So when a particular celebrity is buying that product, people, if you like Deepika Padukone and Deepika Padukone goes on to endorse a particular product, you will have more trust in that product.
Yes, exactly. So the same thing. So one of the most popular examples could be of Muthoot Finance using Amitabh Bachchan to endorse their jewelry. Since people of India love Amitabh Bachchan, and so if he is endorsing the Muthoot Finance brand, it is very
Yeah,
obvious that
and
it would gain popularity.
Amitabh Bachchan himself has an audience out there and his own set
Yeah.
of fans, and so the moment he endorses Muthoot Finance, his fans will also give more attention to that particular product because Amitabh Bachchan himself has that big of a following. And so when you endorse a big celebrity like that, you are also getting all that attention along with him or her. So
Also,
Yes, exactly.
one more example is with the Apple brand.
okay.
So basically, Apple brand represents the elite class wali feeling.
Right.
Also, one of the authority bias. Basically, we like that feeling, and that is why more and more people go and buy Apple.
Yeah, and that's why iPhones are so costly, I guess, because people now, first of all, if you are able to
Yeah,
afford such an expensive product, you fall in that elite class, as Tulika just said. And also they feel that if I'm spending so much money on this product, it's definitely going
to
to
be
be
good.
better than the other options available in the market, which is not true most of the time. And I think that is going to help us understand our behavior as a consumer now. So the next time you go out in the market and you're trying to buy a particular product, I think you will evaluate all your decisions once more, and you're going to analyze how you're behaving to every single thing, from the way the products are placed to the way they're priced. It's going to really influence your decision now.
So, what
Yes.
you said actually, Ananya, remember me of a quote that when we were attending the neuromarketing summer program. So our guide says us that we the neuropsychologists can actually ruin the experience of yours when you're experiencing something. So if you are going to a
Ah,
dopamine search, so I can tell you this all neuromarketing thing, and you will like, okay, now it's all the hormones that are doing. I'm not doing anything. So we can
yeah.
actually go on ruining
It's
your
putting so
experience.
much logic in that emotion that
Yeah.
you stop feeling it and you're just more of analyzing it now. Then,
Yeah. So
oh,
moving to the next biases.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Again,
yeah.
yeah. So this is again a very practical example. Most of us are now studying in college, and so we are living on our own. I mean, we are living in hostels and all. So
Ah,
we go out shopping alone. Shopping alone, we mostly end up buying a lot of things that we actually did not intend to buy. Also, the thing when sale comes, we end up buying like a lot of clothes which we actually uh, uh, wasn't useful to us at that particular point of time. But still, after we come back, we try to justify our decision that whatever we have purchased is like it's okay, we will use it sometime or the other. Or if there was a sale, it's okay. Yeah, we were getting it at a very cheap rate, so it was fine. So that is basically one of the bias we have. We always try to justify our decision. We always try to support our choice. So this is also known as the choice supportive bias.
okay.
The choice supportive bias in the other sense can be looked upon in a different way as well. So, giving an example of the current scenario of the country, like looking about towards the right wing or the left wing of the country, we can say that there are some people which who make choice supportive bias regardless or using their conscious mind to judge why I'm choosing that person or why I'm choosing a particular side, which is also very important to know this bias because it is actually moving towards shaping our society, shaping our governance as well. So this type of cognitive bias is not only enclosed its application towards a neuromarketing, it actually has a broader view, broader perspective when we talk about from the societal point of view as well.
Yeah. And I have a question for you guys, which is somehow related to what Vivas just said. And Anjali Sharma is asking, how can neuromarketing be used for more effective governance?
So I exactly as I said, the choice supportive bias, why we are thinking, why we are choosing a particular site, or why we are preferring a particular site. What is the logic behind it? Are we thinking rationally or are we thinking irrationally? So there was a very good I think study that was done in US. So when we go and press the ballot machine before putting when we put the press the EVM button before putting a vote or before casting a vote, we should at least allow the voter to spend 1 minute or at least a 30 second before they actually make a choice, because
Okay.
as you have already seen with the help of the techniques and all, our brain try to make quick decision, and always the quick decision need not need to be correct or
Yeah.
exactly perfect. So that quick decision is made in the span of 1 to 15 seconds. So there was a
Mhm.
study which says that when you are going in front of EVM and you are pressing the button to choose
You're
whom you
about to
want to
pass
choose,
that vote.
yeah,
You
you have to spend a lot of time. There should be designed in such a way that we can switch off or we can cut off the unconscious thinking of the people, and we can generate or we can initiate a conscious thinking, because when people are conscious, they most of all tend to take right decision or tend to follow right path. So I think that answers Anjali Sharma's question, I guess.
That does, and I think you've given an excellent example, and it was a really good example.
So now coming to last cognitive biases that we have.
Okay.
So this bias is mostly how we sell combos.
Okay.
So in this image, you can see that all the packets HEALTH are placed together, which
Hmm.
gives us the name health. So all the people who are health conscious or not even health conscious, they will tend to get the feeling that all of them together, if we buy all of them together, it will have a good nutrition content. And so that is the thing that they use to sell the combo packets. So
Right.
we tend,
Basically, has
yeah,
that health appeal that can really influence the consumer into buying it. Yeah, that's great. Any more examples relating to this clustering illusion? You have anything else in mind that you want to share?
Clustering illusion also can work on various things, like if I'm selling you a, suppose say I'm selling you a Bonvita packet and I'm giving you a sipper along with it. Okay,
Hmm.
so this is also a part of clustering as well as anchoring. We are anchoring something and we are
Right.
presenting in a cluster. So this also attracts many customer attention, and of course free gifts we are getting. So we are
Yeah.
always attracting that, we are using always that factor to attract more
Yeah,
people.
I mean, I remember that even in Times of India, when they're selling you the yearly subscription, they tend to include a gift with it, a bed sheet that's worth
yes.
2,799 or something like that. So the consumer then thinks, you know
Add
what, I'll
in
just take
purple
the
for some
yearly
color as well.
subscription instead of, just taking the subscription for some months, because then I'm also getting a gift along with that, and they want to avail that offer. So I think that has to do with the neuromarketing to some extent.
Yes, exactly.
Great, perfect. So, what else? Is there anything? Because we have a ton of questions, and I'd like if you start addressing those now.
Yes, we have last three slides as we talked about built-in environment and some
Okay.
of the basic techniques we are using. So
All
first we will talk about going just very quickly about what are the real world
right.
example and how we will study.
Okay.
So when we design a website,
Hmm.
and if the website is only about text, and if we are designing an online shopping window which has a text as well as image, so there's a particular pattern that research has came about that how we should represent the text. So if you can
All
see
right.
over here, page is only about this Wikipedia page is only about text content. So the
Hmm.
text content is usually represented in a F format, and you can easily see that how we are attracting the eye tracking movement of a particular customer. We want them to focus over here, we want them to focus over here, we want them to focus over here as well. Now coming to a image text content, mixed content. This is the e-commerce website, and you can see it's a decrypted or destructed Z form that they are following. So this here
Right.
makes the Z. So what we are going to make them focus, this PCM that we want to focus, then the discount, then the deal of the week, then what we are selling, then the product, then deal ends, and this other brands as well. So we are
Basically
actually,
place everything in such a manner that because you know the customer will look at it in a particular way. First he'll look here, then there, and so you can place all of that using that information. So I'd say that would result in a very effective form of marketing.
and not
Because,
only place, not only place, actually we are also tinkering with the contrast. So if you
okay.
see this slide as an example,
Mhm.
the first thing that you will see is that in this white background, I'm using a yellow background text with a color. So these are the three contrast I want to make. So as a result, what happened? You, as soon as I switch on the slide, you end up reading this.
Right, yeah.
So we are actually tinkering with the saliency of
On every one of us, aren't you? On all the viewers that are watching us right now, and me, using all the knowledge of neuromarketing.
yeah. So we will go directly last two slides we have very quickly.
Right.
So Tulika, just give a quick description of what
Yeah.
you're going to say about this.
Yeah. So in these two pictures also, as Vibhas already mentioned in the previous slide, that the dark orangish regions are those regions where our vision spends more of the time, much more of the time. So in
Okay.
the first image, we can see that maximum of the attention goes on the baby's face.
Mhm.
The attention goes on the text. No, but if we place the baby in such a way that it is looking at the textual information, so we are unconsciously directing the consumer's attention to also towards the textual material that is written over there. So this is one of the live examples, like how we are using the baby to make the product
Connection.
connected. Yeah.
Now we
Excellent.
talk about last slide I have, and
Right.
this is the built-in environment as we are talking
Hmm.
about, like how to place a particular product in a shelf and how to create the saliency. So
Yeah.
I have talked briefly about this, and I have talked descriptively about this, and I will talk about this. So when you're designing a particular, say, showroom or uh, particular built-in environment or workplaces, you need to make sure that what are the things in the showroom I want to focus. And
Right.
according to that, you need to tinker around with the saliency and the place or the position you want to make that product placed or want that product to be placed. So as soon as the customer enters to your say showroom, he or she get attracted towards that thing. So this is a recently very well-known use of neuromarketing, where we're using neuromarketing tools to
Right.
build-in environment in a more fashionable and interacting way.
Even the
Excellent.
even the techniques of neuromarketing are used in the workspace environment, because we know that
Okay.
majority of the time we will be spending in our offices, for example, from 9 to 5 or 10 to 6. So
Yeah.
design the environment in such a way that it is comfortable for us to stay in. So that is also one of the aspects where neuromarketing is used.
See, effective use of the employee's time and resources can be ensured.
Exactly.
That's great. Uh, okay, so that was a really good talk, guys, and I had a great time, and I'm sure the viewers did too. Is there any concluding line you'd like to give before we
Yeah.
start with the questions?
Concluding line will be only that you might get overwhelmed after this presentation that yes, our mind getting hacked, our mind getting, we are controlling all the things, all the decision making pathway, all the reward system pathway, all the emotional pathway getting hacked. It's not about hacking, or it's not about deceiving, it's not about manipulating. Neuromarketing only and only focus on nudging people, on nudging customer to make a wise decision.
All right. Let's see
So
what
this is our
the
concluding
viewers
line.
have to say about this, because I think they're a bit in conflict with what you just said about nudging the customers to buy that product and not deceiving them.
Concluding this
So,
and ending this, and we are open for the questions that you can fire on us anytime.
and I'm starting right
Yeah.
now. Okay, so
Thank you for listening to us, everyone.
Thank you.
Subhra Jyoti asks, how is advertising creating an impact on decision making while choosing a product, and how can advertising be changed using data from neuromarketing? Addressed a major part of this throughout the presentation about how you can place certain stuff at certain place to make sure that the consumer is reading the textual material as well, or why we use particular colors, because particular colors can lead to a particular response. Anything more you want to add to this?
Yeah, I want to add to what Shubhro Jyoti's question is. It's like when
Okay.
we talk about advertising a particular product, we have to talk about various aspects. We talk about the visual content. We talk about how we are marketing it. Talk about how we are doing the PR activity. So, giving a slight example that I have seen. So, suppose I'm selling you a product of 1,000 rupees, and I am giving you a discount of 1%, and I'm selling a product of 1,100 rupees, and I'm giving you a product of I'm giving you the product for 10% discount. So
Right.
at the end, you will buy the product which is costing you 1,100 rupees and 10% discount.
Yeah.
So exactly, every factor depends on how we are nudging the customer or nudging the consumer to buy a certain product.
Okay, basically an interplay of so many factors. And I think at the end, we really need to remember is that however way we market the product, that's good. But what actually matters at the very end is the consumer experience. And if you aren't able to generate that, then kitne bhi marketing campaigns kar lo, the consumer won't come back and buy your product. So at the end
Yeah.
of the day, I think in neuromarketing, you might be nudging a particular customer to buy that product. All boils down to the consumer experience, and if you can't provide that, then the product won't go on for a long time.
Yes.
Okay, I
Exactly.
have another question. Okay, Zakir asks, large companies like Amazon and Walmart have started installing cameras inside their stores to track how people behave between the market shelves, and they use it to sell them data and change their behavior using neuromarketing. Isn't collecting data against people's will a form of deception, as you're nudging the behavior of a person who may not have consented to be nudged?
Okay, so when we are setting up the cameras in a particular Walmart or a particular Amazon thing, so what we do, we are actually tracing their movement. And when we talk about nudge and deceive, we are not actually looking that whether the customer is going to buy a particular product, or whether he's not taking or whether he's not going to buy a product. What we are only looking, or what we are only focusing is what could be the saliency factor we can tinker about in our store by the motion tracking system. So when we track a particular motion, or when we are doing a motion tracking system, we only working on the tinkering things. Like yes, if I place this things together, people might get attracted towards this thing faster. as a whole lot of sense. And if I place this thing, because in this markets, companies actually buy shelves, like which shelf they want to put their product in. So suppose you want to put your product in the top shelf, you have to pay a different amount to place that your product in the
Okay.
top shelf. So it's not of deceiving, because you're not actually convincing or telling them to buy a particular product you want to sell. Because at the end we also have to remember that the store also wants to make money.
Right.
The store also wants to make money along with the companies that are making money. So the
Yeah.
store actually arranges this, again comes the example of built-in environment. It actually arranges the field in such a way that every product can generate more or less same tinkering sensation in the mind of the customer who is visiting the site or visiting the marketplace.
Great. One more question. Sneha is asking, this kind of marketing can get really scary really quickly as brain computer interfaces are on the horizon. This is just the step of the iceberg. Once you have something like Elon Musk's Neuralink, which lets you communicate with the computer directly with your brain, they will connect enormous data, and it will move from just affecting minor buying choices to affecting big life decisions. Small decisions cause big changes. And this technology needs to be strongly regulated ASAP. Thoughts from the speakers, especially as they said they were trained by a company who profits from neuromarketing. They have a clear bias here. So, what?
So yeah, exactly. Like it's not like we are trained by a company or something sort of that.
Yeah.
We actually love to read about this because we actually end up enjoying how we make decision. And as we say that after reading so much, we might end up um, ruining the experience of some people. And to add one more
Yeah.
point of what Sneha said about the neural link, Sneha, one thing you have to keep in mind that when we are talking about brain or brain computer interface, we have to also keep in mind the data set we are considering here is immensely large.
And you know
Yeah.
what? The thing is that we are not taking a side over here. We are not telling you whether neuromarketing is good, whether neuromarketing is bad. We are not telling you that. We are telling you what neuromarketing is and how is it being used. And so that's what you really need to keep in mind, because we are not saying whether it's a good thing, whether it's a bad thing. We are just informing you about it and telling you about it. And in fact, I don't think at any point we actually even came up with the opinion where we said that, oh my God, this is like, we are going to use this to promote some product of ours or anything like that. We were just informing you
Yeah.
of what's happening in the marketplace and what might happen in the future. And frankly, they're just things that are not really even in our control. So
Yeah.
we just
And
Yeah.
inform you.
also
That's it.
adding one more point to that, the buying choice is uh, always in the hands of the consumer. So if we want to buy a particular product, we cannot force him to buy that particular product. So it will always be according to the consumer's choice. We can only nudge the consumer to buy a particular product. We cannot force them to buy it.
And to add Tulika's point, when we talk about deceiving and nudging people, we are not saying that we people are not, companies are not using to deceive people. What we are saying is neuromarketing focuses on nudging people. So to
Yeah.
give you the example, as
Yeah.
Ananya very well quoted, that if we are deceiving the people, giving a bad quality or sending a bad quality, the business cycle will disrupt any moment.
Yeah,
Because
maybe the first round of sales might
Yeah, yeah.
shoot up, but at the end of the day, the customer won't come back and buy it if he doesn't like it. So,
yes,
yeah.
exactly,
Oh,
Yes.
the cycle will break down and it will actually harm the company itself. It will create a negative emotion or negative reputation for that company, which is very
Company.
derogatory for
Yeah.
that company itself to again rise and come up with come up to the market.
right. The last question for the day, Janvi Jose asks, will the knowledge that neuromarketing has been used in a campaign affect the sales of the product, or will they stay the same? And I think we've Yeah.
Yeah, we have actually, I have, when I was talking about the anchoring bias, and I talk about the soup can research that was done in the marketplace, when we are anchoring a placard of telling them like you can at least buy 12 cans maximum, we are anchoring them to buy more, which is ending up which ends increasing our sale after a particular year. So yes, we are always using this to increase the sale.
Yeah, and it depends on
Yeah.
so much. You can't actually predict उस extent तक how much a product will sell, because a new product might come in the market. Consumers might, like start liking something else, or a new trend might come up in the market, and then your product is not just that new anymore, and is not really appealing to the consumers the way it was before. So again, it's just so many factors at play that you can't really say that, hey, just because I'm using neuromarketing and I have a very
Yeah.
basic knowledge of your brain, I can predict how you're gonna whether you're going to go ahead with that with buying that product or not, because so many things are also not in my control. So
Absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
So we want to end, like, if there are no questions anymore. Are there any questions, Ananya?
No, I can't see any more questions now. I think we've answered all of them.
Yeah. So we want to conclude by a beautiful saying, like one of my favorite lines, that in a real sense we have two minds, one that thinks and one that
One
feels.
that feels.
हिंदी में कहते तो
And neuromarketing appeals to
या
both of
हिंदी में कहना
them.
चाहिए तो इसको ऐसे भी एंड कर सकते हैं कि हमारे पास दिमाग और दिल दोनों होता है. So
Right.
ending that, it's like one mind that thinks and one mind that feels. So maybe a feel mind, we can say, what is the feeling we are generating is a part of a unconscious mind, and one which thinks is a conscious mind. So it is a beautifully framed code of like, I like this whosoever has framed. So that's all for
Great.
today.
I just like to thank you for taking out the time and for doing this talk. So thank you so much, both Vivas and Tulika. I'd also like to thank all the viewers for coming out today and being with us to the very end, and for watching it. And I hope we've provided you with valuable insight when it comes to neuromarketing. And for more updates, for new events and everything, just keep tuned to us, to the Theory Club at St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. And we'll keep coming up with new stuff, interesting stuff to keep you entertained.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
thank you, Theory Club, for inviting us, and thank you all the viewers for watching.
All right.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe. Take care, everyone.